Okay, well, this is Pokemon Island. Okay, and it looks a bit like Las Vegas actually. And you've got a pyramid there and a shopping mall and a little port. But if you look at the shape of Pokemon Island, it has a really strong relationship to Deshima. Okay? So this essay takes seriously the point at which the commodity and design concept collide and looks to those character drawings, okay, looking at these in particular, to understand better what they can tell us about Pokemon aside from the popular assumptions and the archetypal discussion of fandom and fads. Okay? We tend to talk about fandom and appreciation in media analysis, and we don't tend to talk specifically about design and the kind of iconology at work in a design, and that's what I kind of want to do today, to make some strong connections to the Neo-Baroque. In asking such a question, this paper posits design analysis as a complement to the ethnographic focus seen in the majority of Pokemon studies. And if you think Neo-Baroque is small, you should come to a Pokemon studies conference. And in so doing, hopes to illuminate a burgeoning blind spot in the current academic research on Japanese video games more generally. I refer to the examination of their visual styles, rhythms, animations, forms, material contemporaries, and technological antecedents. Fear of exoticism and misinterpretation have stalled the formal scrutiny of Japanese video games and design, including Pokemon. And so this paper takes a long, hard look at Pokemon, one of the largest and most profitable media franchises in the world. We can encounter Pokemon in virtually all major media forms, including animation, television, theme park, and a huge variety of merchandise. At the root of the Pokemon universe is a series of video games. And there's my DS. If you want to pass that round, Angela, just open it up. It should have Pokemon running. And so these various media reinforce one another to promote this Pokemon universe. The character designs I'm talking about are from the primary generation. That's the first 151 Pokemon that were released. Thinking about Jens's kind of itineraries of animals there are now over 400 Pokemon, and I'm talking about the first 151. So from humble origins in Japan, Pokemon is now a global phenomenon. It's elicited considerable scholarly interest in recent years, and those in the English-speaking world have committed to the interpretation of Pokemon culture and its impact on children. Another body of literature has been produced by the anti-Pokemon movement, which is predominantly made up of religiously motivated figureheads and parenting groups who are concerned by the perceived occult dimensions of the game. So when Japanese Baroque form comes to the West in this way, this kind of collect 'em, gotta catch 'em all, Wunderkammer media, some of the Baroque prejudice connects. Should I turn the volume down on that one?
Sure, sorry.
There you go. So when these media come to us, they encounter a kind of Baroque framework of negativity. It's like, this is a decadent exploitation of children's labour and da-da-da-da-da, and it's like, its complexity is an excess and all of this kind of stuff. It's ironic that literature coming from religious critics employs, albeit attenuated, close analysis as a strategy to undermine and criticise the game, which conventional scholarly analysis has hesitated from speaking about in such a piecemeal way. And then, I've got a big quote from one of the reverends from somewhere in Middle America, but I don't really want to go into it. It's important to make use of close description in order to fully penetrate through to the inner workings and deep play of the game. In the past few years, there's been 2 publications, Joseph Tobin's book on Pokemon and Anne Allison's book on Pokemon. My problem with them is that they hesitate from looking at these drawings in particular to try and ascertain exactly what's going on in the game. So, the study of the political economy of Pokemon is exhaustive, and the authors rightly position the game in the context of East Asian modernity and globalization as part of the mass media recentering of Japan's soft power. However, both volumes shy away from looking at the artistic ambition of the games. So, the game's original designer, Satoshi Tajiri, is often quoted talking about his original ambitions for Pokemon, mainly emphasizing what motivated him and how he negotiated with Nintendo over time. In fact, when he is mentioned, it tends to be through recourse to his original statements about the game's concept, To give an example, one particular anecdote is crucial to how the method with which the majority of scholars interpret the aesthetic of Pokemon. So Tajiri recalls the urbanization of his childhood play spaces and the loss of those overgrown muddy hideaways that children love to explore. In particular, the process of urban redevelopment deprived children of the excitement of catching bugs in the wild corners of the town. This anecdote chimes with the sentiments of animation film director Hayao Miyazaki, you've probably seen films of, who likewise source is one meaning of his work in the accelerating loss of the countryside to burgeoning urban sprawl. Bracketed by recourse to these same anecdotes, Allison summarises that, quote, Tajiri has said that he has two major motivations in designing Pokemon. One was to create a challenging but playable game that would pique children's imaginations. The other was to give kids a means of relieving the stresses of growing up in a post-industrial society. Born in 1962, Tajiri shares the opinion of many in his generation that life for children today is hard. In this academic record society, the pressure to study, compete and perform starts as early as birth. In Tajiri's mind, the rewards of millennial Japan have come with a loss to humanity. And so while these stories give us a motivation for the game's concept, they don't take us very much further when trying to understand the imagery of Pokemon, its characters, environments, patterns and grammars. And my feeling is that if any art movement needs that, the Neo-Baroque we need to kind of systematically, not in a kind of taxonomy, but we need to kind of get to grips with close textual analysis. Furthermore, one can suggest that the paradigmatic focus on Tajiri's explanation creates a totalizing myth of how gameplay in Pokemon recuperates his lost childhood experience for contemporary children. Reference to the conceptual beginnings of Pokemon, what we might call the narrative of its development and play, displace the problem of talking about the representational grammar and ludic patterns of the game. In his essay on such modern myths, Roland Barthes remarks that, quote, the fact that we cannot manage to achieve more than an unstable grasp of reality doubtless gives the measure of our present alienation. We constantly drift between the object and its demystification, powerless to render its wholelessness. And that, to me, speaks to all Neo-Baroque, the Neo-Baroque problem, in a way, that concerns with ontology of the image actually stall us in our analysis. And so in the Stafford sense, it's much better to look at how the physical object creates a framework for the imaginary rather than systematically analysing the materials of the production.